1-7. I mean, just worry. Oh. Still though, today we're going to be talking about two extremely legendary swordsmen. Swordsmen that use so many swords because two just isn't enough for them. First, we're going to be talking about the great Zoro. And now, for our next great swordsman. You know him by his rapping, but you also know him for his amazing fighting style with 7 handle blades. The great Killer B.
気をつけて助けこいつ刀を使い慣れてるただの忍びじゃないよ俺様のフック感じさせてやるぜ
Now, I'm going to show you how to fight like Zoro and a tiny bit like Killer B. Okay, first of all, when I went and did the research to see if Zoro was even possible, I found some things. Some very, very interesting facts you need to know. Zoro is very impractical. Yes, having a sword in your mouth does hinder you in a lot of ways. But here's the thing. I was on all these different sites and I kept seeing all these ludicrous things people were saying. But I do understand why they said them. First of all, one of the first things I saw was that somebody said that having 3 swords and using like a 2-hand style is impractical. Well, actually they said it was stupid. But the point is this, the reason they said why is because if I have this sword in my mouth and I have these 2 swords, if I swing the sword, I'm gonna, like, if someone blocks it, it comes back, it's gonna smack the sword. And I'm probably either gonna hurt myself or break my neck. Because it only takes 130 to 150 pounds of pounds either direction to break your neck. So in other words, someone smacks you at more than 5 miles an hour, that sword is gonna be what breaks your neck. Unless you let go of it. And then some of you think, well, wouldn't it break your teeth? No, it won't. It takes 640 pounds of pressure to break your teeth. And by the way, that would be like if one of the world famous boxers punched you in the face. Then a tooth or 2 would go flying. But here's the thing though. There's something interesting I noticed as I watched Zoro and Killer B fight. First of all, Zoro doesn't fight every single time with 3 swords. Sometimes he fights with 1. Other times he fights with 2. And then only in very certain times does he actually fight with 3. But here's the thing. The second thing that someone said was this. Even if he didn't use the 3 swords, say he just used 2, he said that if you have 2 swords, it's going to be crap because you're not going to be able to cut someone. That's not true. If I hit you with 1 arm like that with a real sword, I'm going to cut into you. There's a difference between cutting and slashing. He was trying to say that slashing was stupid. 2 swords can be definitely better than 1. Because if you're able to knock the sword out of the way, you have a sword free to stab with. Now here's the last thing. They said, in the blog thing that I was reading, that if you put a sword in your mouth, you would not have enough strength to cut someone with it. That is not true. First of all, it takes 1 pound of pressure on your skin for steel to break your skin. And by the way, that's without a blade. If you have a blade on it, it only takes a half. Meaning, me doing this would cut somebody if I was actually able to hold that in my mouth. Then you got to think, what happens when you collide with it? Yes, that would also be a problem. Now, I'm going to show you how to fight with 3 swords. First of all, yes. Okay. Here's the thing. As long as I am using this sword to cut and not to block, the sword is perfectly fine. But if I try to use the sword to block, that is what puts my life in danger. Now, I'm going to show you. Alright? As you can see, as long, my tooth hurts now. As long as I hit her gut with the sword, or the knife in this case, I would cut into her gut because your gut is soft. The point is, we talked about Zoro a lot. Now I need to get to Killer B because I'm very short on time. Here's the point. Killer B uses 7 handle blades. Now, back to what the person said earlier. Not having enough strength to actually cut somebody. Yes, if you hit someone with your elbow, it's probably going to go out of your arm. And even one of the blades, he holds with his leg. Now that would be a lot hard. Well, actually it wouldn't be harder. It would actually be easier than holding it with your elbow. True, you can hold it against your shoulder, but still, this would technically, as long as you had a good grip on it, would be a whole lot better than doing this. But if you're able to hold it to your shoulder because the handle is long enough, it would be fine. But the point is, if I have a blade here and a blade here, it'd be better if I just run at the person. Because either way, I am going to hit them. Even if it doesn't do much, because the only force is coming from me smacking into them, it's still going to be more force than if I tried to elbow swing it. Point is this though. Because his blades are small, they're very good for throwing, meaning I could understand him having all those blades if he's going because they're like throwing knives. But if he's trying to use all of them, if you've actually seen the way he fights, he spins. Talking about Zoro, thing is, if Zoro has the sword in his mouth like this, on this side, and he has his sword up like this, and he has this other sword here, and never puts it here unless he's blocking, this sword style would be perfectly practical, because all he would have to do is this. He would just have to spin. Meaning that unless the other person blocked it, he wouldn't have much to do. Because as long as he put the swords like this, he would hit the oncoming sword, or swords, push them out of the way, and then his head would come in and finish the job. Meaning, that could be one of the only ways Zoro's fighting technique would actually work. But Killer B though, I understand him holding all the blades and then spinning. Because if you have 9 blades, you're practically a spike ball. Spike ball is usually what's on the end of a mace. So So in other words, he is turning himself into a spike ball so that he can hit you. But unlike normal humans, he can throw the blades up in the air and catch them. Most people can't do that. And the thing is, considering he stands on one leg, spinning is like his only option. Because no one could hop at you doing that. That would be kind of stupid. And that would utterly leave you defenseless. And the only part of your body that would be open is your leg, which would be the perfect spot for the person to attack. Because if they came at you, you can't do much except for maybe hop out of the way. And even if you did successfully hop out of the way, you'd probably fall over. Or the person would get you when they came back around. Just one last thing to say. The people who think that two swords are impractical, the thing is, a shield isn't much better. You still have one arm. The shield does block, yes. And the sword is for attacking, unless you know how to use the shield. But you gotta think, if you have two swords, you have all the offense and not as much defense because you have to block with both blades. Because most people who use two swords are gonna use two thin, long blades. So that way they have more reach and better attack. But here's the one last thing to just end it off with though. Two swords, you'd be able to do this. And cut someone in half. Unlike this. Levy move for any of you who watch Attack on Titan. That's all. Thanks.